Since the Force is found in all living things, what does it mean to be closed off from it? Someone could be cut off from the Force through their own actions, or if a powerful Force user imposed it on them. Traumatic events could also affect a Force-sensitive individual's connection to the mystical energy field. Most of the time, this connection severing wasn't permanent, but it could be. Being cut off from the Force didn't mean the energy field left you, but it did mean that you wouldn't be able to tap into it and could even make it so other Force users couldn't sense you within it. We've met several Jedi who have willingly cut themselves off from the Force. In the days of the High Republic, Jedi Master Elzar Mann was defending the Republic Fair on Valo with former Jedi Ty Yorick. The leader of the Nihil released a creature known as a Nameless that could overwhelm a Force user and even nullify their connection to the Force. Mann was terrified of the creature. In the midst of a vicious battle, Mann succumbed to the influence of the dark side and tapped into its power. Mann didn't fully fall, thanks in part to Yorick. He decided he needed time to recuperate and willingly cut off his connection to the Force. In this same battle, Jedi Master Abel was killed by a Nameless. His Padawan, Gavi, saw it happen and was understandably traumatized. Gavi lost his ability to tap into the Force, and as far as I know, it never returned. Fast forwarding quite a bit, when Anakin Skywalker was still a Padawan under Obi-Wan Kenobi's tutelage, he was going through a rough time emotionally. Anakin was always trying to suppress his emotions. He decided to cut himself off from the Force to help reduce the extreme feelings he was having. His plan had the opposite effect. His feelings of loneliness and anger were amplified without tapping into the Force. He reconnected to the Force and continued his training. After the Clone Wars began, Anakin came across a youngling, still waiting for a master to make her a Padawan, Mil Alabeth. Alabeth had a somewhat rare Force ability that allowed her to feel the suffering of others in a very real way. The carnage of the Galactic Civil War was wreaking havoc on her, and she wished to turn it all off. Anakin helped her maintain her connection to the Force using his previous experiences to help her understand how it could be channeled to help. After Ahsoka Tano walked away from the Jedi Order, she shut herself off from the Force. She was rudderless for some time before the war called her back. She didn't rejoin the Jedi Order, but once again tapped into the Force to help during the Siege of Mandalore. After the war ended, Ahsoka had to go into hiding. She once again shut herself off from the Force. More fully this time. And this wasn't just because the remaining Force sensitives were being hunted down by the Empire. It was also to blunt the feelings of losing her past life and everything she knew. She would eventually reconnect and use her powers to help the galaxy. Upon the execution of Order 66, Caleb Dune fled after he watched the clone troopers, who were his allies just moments before, gun down his master, Depa Billaba. He cut himself off from the Force, changed his name, and started to piece together a new life. It would be years before Caleb, then going by Kanan Jarrus, would reconnect to the Force to teach Ezra Bridger. Similar to Caleb Dune is Cal Kestis. Kestis was also a Padawan when Order 66 was declared. He also watched his master be taken down. He fled and started a new life as well, severing his connection to the Force. While working as a scrapper in a salvage yard, an accident nearly took the life of a friend. Cal tapped into the Force and saved the man, but this also put him on the radar of the Jedi hunting Inquisitors. Kestis fully reconnected to the Force and joined the larger fight against the Empire. The Inquisitors captured a Jedi Knight called Seer Junda. Seer was able to escape the Inquisitor's stronghold, but tapped into the dark side to do so. Between being hunted for her abilities and coming close to losing herself to the dark side, Seer closed herself off from the Force completely. It wouldn't be until Seer and Cal Kestis would cross paths that she would once again tap into the Force to guide a younger Force user. We've covered many examples of individuals cutting themselves off from the Force. The last example we're going to discuss gives a good indication that all the previous willing examples, possibly with the exception of Anakin Skywalker, didn't entirely sever their connection. Luke Skywalker exiled himself from the galaxy and shut himself off from the Force as well. He said it was much more difficult to turn off the Force than it was to learn to tap into it. Even with Skywalker's efforts, his innate ability in the Force would break through these blocks at times. There are some creatures, both in and out of Legends, that could also dampen a Force user's abilities or cut them off entirely. There are even legends of some species that seem to exist outside the Force. These will be covered in future transmissions. This transmission came from reading stories in the High Republic. I was noticing Jedi cutting off their connection with the Force, despite it being in all living things, over centuries. Check out this transmission for more information on the Force.